Good morning, everyone, and we are Group 9. Today we are here to discuss three topics, namely, estimate activity durations, develop schedule, and control schedule. Before you begin developing the schedule of a project, you need to know the expected durations of all activities of a project. Project management frameworks such as the Project Management Institute's Project Management Body of Knowledge contains different tools and techniques for estimating durations. The expected amount of time for the completion of an activity is the basis for developing the project schedule. It can also serve as an input for estimation of the cost of an activity, depending on the type of the activity and the estimation technique. So with that said, what is the basis of estimates? The basis of estimates is a documented set of assumptions and constraints that underlay a duration estimate. This document also describes the methods applied to produce an estimate, the range of potential outcomes as well as the confidence of the estimates. This documentation is important in projects for several reasons. It makes the constraints and assumptions transparent that have been considered for the estimation. Once an assumption becomes invalid, this may trigger the need for a new estimation. A project manager can also use these documents to ensure consistency across the different activities in a project as a justification for the project schedule and for the communication with stakeholders. With that said, how is activity duration estimated? The estimation of activity durations should generally be done by the person who is the most familiar with the activity's type of work. This is even more important if an estimation technique is used that relies on the expertise and experience of the estimators instead of the historical data. The output of duration estimations is always a number of time periods, such as days, weeks, or months. The level of confidence and whether it is a single estimate or a range depends on the estimation technique that is applied. Regardless of the estimation technique, it is good practice that a document accompanies the estimated number that sets out all the underlying assumptions and constraints, the estimate ranges, and the expected level of accuracy. In PMI terminology, this document is called the basis of estimates. Inputs. While the PMBOK lists a number of inputs which are grouped under the project management plan, project documents, enterprise environmental factors, and organizational process assets, an estimation can be done with the following minimum key input parameters such as list of activities and their attributes, assigned resources, and historical data. The more information we can consider such as risk register or enterprise environment factors, the better our estimates. Of course, activity duration estimates are subject to progressive elaboration. This implies that they could be rather rough estimates at the initial stage of scheduling project. During the course of the project, however, they are then enhanced and become more accurate as more information and details are known that is in line with the project. PMI lists the most common estimation techniques, namely expert judgment, analogous estimating, parametric estimating, three-point estimating, and bottom-up estimating. First up is expert judgment. Expert judgment means that an estimator or a group of estimators determine the expected duration of an activity based on their experience and expertise in their respective area. The accuracy of these types of estimates can vary greatly. It depends on the characteristics of the work and the experience of the estimators. Expert judgment can also be applied to supplement one of the other types of estimates, such as in cases where historical data are only applicable for portions of the work. Analogous estimating. Analogous estimating is a technique that involves using either historical data or the experience of estimators to determine the expected duration of an activity. It is also referred to as top-down estimating. Parametric estimating. The parametric estimating technique makes use of historical data and statistical approaches to predict the durations of planned activities. This can be one of the most accurate methods if the data availability, quality, and statistical correlations are strong. However, it may require some effort in resources to perform the estimation. Next is three-point estimating. As the name suggests, this technique requires determining three different duration estimates: an optimistic estimate, where we assume the best-case scenario where we have optimal duration; a pessimistic estimate, where we take into account probable inhibitors of optimal duration; a most likely estimate, or realistic estimate of duration. It can be used as a range estimate, or further processed by calculating a final estimate using a triangular or PERT distribution. And the last technique, bottom-up estimating. As duration estimations relate to activities, the bottom-up estimation technique is simplicity the main approach for activity durations. Activities are typically the most granular planning components of a project. However, even activities can be further broken up, such as breaking up activities into steps or procedures to increase the accuracy of an estimate. In short, the technique suggests that those who are responsible for the execution of work are also estimating the duration of that work.
Control schedule. It is a process in project management that involves monitoring the status of activities related to a particular project. Aside from monitoring the status, it also involves updating of the project process as well as managing the changes to the schedule in order to achieve the plan. Comparing the progress of the project against a scheduled baseline allows project managers to determine if a particular project activity is ahead or behind the schedule. Project managers can then plan a corrective action to manage the changes to the baseline schedule. This will reduce the risk of delivery of the products or service, especially when it is managed well. The control schedule process is part of the controlling and monitoring process group of project management. The key principle of this process is that the changes should not just be reacted to but should also be controlled proactively. This task falls on the project manager, and it is important that the project manager acts immediately before the changes affects or influence the entire project schedule. Another aspect of the control schedule process is that it manages the expectation of the stakeholders by means of giving them advice when work needs to be performed, including the type of work and its duration. It is carried out throughout the entire project after the schedule has been developed until all the activities have been completed. It is important to know the actual performance of the schedule. Any schedule baseline can be approved using the Perform Integrated Change Control process. With the control schedule process, it allows project managers to determine the status of the project schedule, conducting reviews, reprioritizing remaining work plan, determining that there is indeed a change of the project schedule, and managing actual changes. In project management, developing an efficient schedule is very important. A good schedule will let the stakeholders of the project to use their time wisely to deliver results. Moreover, it also ensures that the project life cycle will be able to meet the necessary deadline. To develop a schedule, project managers need to analyze activity sequences, resource requirements, durations, and schedule constraints to create the project schedule. The advantage of this process is that by using different inputs and resources like schedule activities, duration, logical relationship, and resource ability with the scheduling tools, it creates a schedule model with the planned dates for completing the project activities. There are different project management tools and techniques involved in developing a schedule, and these include the schedule network analysis, critical path method, critical chain method, resource optimization techniques, modeling techniques, leads and lags, schedule compression, and scheduling tool. Once project managers are able to develop a schedule for their projects, it will lead to different yet critically important outputs, which include generation of its schedule baseline, project schedule, schedule data, project calendars, project document updates, and project management plan updates. All these outputs are necessary for schedule plan management. There are four inputs to the control schedule process. First is the project management plan. There are two essential components of the project management plan that relates to the control schedule process. First is the schedule baseline. This contains the latest approved version of the project schedule and is used to compare your planned progress with your actual progress. The second is the schedule management plan. This is a how-to document defining how the control schedule will be managed and changed. The control schedule process is used to process and manage such changes. The schedule management plan articulates the acceptable variances for schedule performance and will define the circumstances when schedule reserves may be used. Variances the tasks both on and off the critical path and any particular processes or procedures that should be used to update the plan. Project schedule. This is an obvious and major input to the control schedule process, as it contains the day-to-day schedule which is being used to track and monitor project work, hence providing resources against which such results are managed and controlled. Work performance information. As the name suggests, this gives information on how the work is being performed, which tasks have been started, which have finished, and progress on tasks currently being worked on. The work performance information provides valuable data against which schedule comparison can be made and also to help spot trends and react appropriately. Organizational process assets. The main goal here is to use any assets that helps the control schedule process to be effective and may include aspects such as templates, policies, and procedures that aid managing the project schedule. There are five outputs from the control schedule process. First is the work performance measurements. Such measurements are normally the earned value data that show both schedule variance and schedule performance. To this end, the updated schedule performance index or the SPI enter the schedule variance or the SB are the major outputs, although other schedule related calculations may also be included. The second is the organizational process assets updates. This will include any lesson learned while using the control schedule process and will be based on causes of the schedule variances. Third is the change request. This refers to preventative and corrective actions, either to realign schedule performance with the baseline or for change request to the schedule itself within the schedule process. Fourth is a project management plan updates. Because of the interactive nature of the component parts of this plan, any changes to the schedule while you are using control schedule will likely impact the project scope and budget and hence will be no need to be used to update the project management plan. Such update would be to the schedule baseline, the schedule management plan, and the cost baseline, and are key outputs from the control schedule process. Fifth is the project document updates. This includes any other documents other than the project management plan that relate to the project schedule. There are 8 tools and techniques used within control schedule. The variance analysis. This is to determine and understand the difference between what was scheduled and what was executed. Then use that data to determine if any corrective action is needed and hence control schedule. Variance analysis must determine the root cause of such variance as an aid to determine whether corrective or preventative actions are needed or are possible. Performance review. The project schedule contains the planned start and finish dates for each task, and these are compared to the actual start and finish dates to determine what the variance is. Often earned value information is presented at such reviews as evidence of how the project is progressing against the schedule. Resource leveling. As the project progresses and as a result of actual performance, it's quite normal for the project manager to reallocate resources or add them to existing or new tasks. The root cause of this may be a result of request for change to the schedule and hence control schedule. The above will normally cause the resources to be leveled in order to control schedule. Many of the scheduling techniques may need to be used here as part of resource leveling, including schedule compression, crashing, or fast tracking. What if scenario analysis? This technique thinks through different scenarios that could affect the project and determining what might happen to the schedule based on such scenarios. This technique is normally used in parallel with resource leveling, particularly when using some form of project management software to determine the effect of moving or adding resources. Schedule compression. As we mentioned a while ago, this will include techniques such as crushing and fast tracking. The objective here is to determine an approach either to reduce the plan's duration or to accommodate resource limitations. For example, the scheduling tool. This may be exactly the same tool that was mentioned under the heading of the project management software and is used to identify options in order to determine the preferred schedule and hence perform control schedule.